Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment we are going to begin the service for Rita Lipton Muller. Just a gentle reminder before we begin, if we could ask everyone to please turn their phones on silent, not to disturb the sacred funeral ceremony. Officiating our service is Rabbi Stephen Stark Lowenstein from Am Shalom. We're going to begin with escorting Rita's casket to the gravesite. If any of the gentlemen or any other families would like to walk alongside, you're more than welcome to do so.
That I think that was
I'm gonna move this. Let's go just far because we gotta go feet first.
Oh, I see him now. He wasn't over here.
All together. Any more help on this side? I'll grab the card. Spread yourself.
Okay, we're gonna lift up and we're just gonna pull the card from underneath. 1, 2, 3. Watch your feet.
Feel free to use the seats that are right here in front. Chairs are a sign of wisdom, not weakness. You guys want to come and sit here in front? A voice says, cry out, and I say, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, when the wind of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God shall endure forever. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. I've set the eternal always before me. God is at my side, I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exalt, my soul rejoice. For my being is secure. For you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful one see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. Death has taken our beloved Rita. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God. Hear them, O God. Be with them. For Rita's love that united us in life which death cannot sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path, which now continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious, precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. We find comfort from the words of sacred scripture from the book of Psalms. Psalm 121. Asa inai el ha'ri me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. The 23rd Psalm is so beautiful, reminding us that we walk together through the valley of the shadow of death. No one can walk in that valley alone. We walk together. Please join with me. The words in Hebrew are so beautiful. El Male Rachamim, Adonai Ro'i Lo Exar, V'no Desha Yarbitzeni, Amei Menochot Yinachaleni Nafshi Yeshovev, Yancheni B'mag Leitzedek Lama'an Shemo, Gam Ki Elech B'geit Salmavet, Lo Ira Ra Ki Ata Imadi, Achtov V'chesed Yirdafuni Kol Yemei Chayai, V'shavti B'beit Adonai La'orech Yamim. Together, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. At this hour, the blessed presence of family and friends brings comfort and strength. It says to us, be sure that love, the spring of life, abides. May all who mourn take heart as they remember the goodness they've given and received. And when the days of their mourning are ended, may the memory of their loved ones, may Rita's memory truly be a blessing. Adonai mi yagor bo halecha, mi yishkan b'har kodecha. God, who can abide in your holy abode? Who can dwell in your holy sanctuary? People like Rita, people who lived good lives, people who did the best they could for as long as they could, people who truly were loved. Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor who can find. She's more precious than fine pearls. Her husband of 30 years trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She's clothed in strength and dignity. She faces the future cheerfully. Many daughters have done valiantly. Rita, you excel above them all. We find comfort from modern words as well. Beautiful words like Merit Malloy, who writes, when I die, if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need to give me something, give him what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not on your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children who need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left in me is love, give me away. Love doesn't die, people do. To ancient words and modern words, we are reminded that we measure lives not in time but in grace, in the joy with which they live and the love that they leave behind. The true worth of a life is the story that it leaves behind. Tell that story well. Did she teach you about love? Did she personify genius or sensitivity? Did her life warn you of the danger of bitterness and anger? As I stand and behold the eyes of people who mourn, I realize the only difference between people is not their wealth or fame or their success. The only difference is those that had love in their life and those who did not. Rita had love from family and friends, from her husband's family, from her relatives, and from friends of over 60 years. Family. Jordan, representing the family, I invite you to come forward if you'd like to say a few words.
I wanted to share 3 things about Rita that I'll remember. The first, and I told my family this story last night, was 13, I started playing the guitar. And Rita said to me, "You got to start listening to Eric Clapton. That's a guitar player." And she was a catalyst for me to start appreciating good music. B.B. King, Buddy Guy. She got me into rock and roll and blues, and kind of guided me on having a better taste in music, and I appreciate that from her. And she loved music. Talked about it last night, going to see Pump Boys and Dinettes with her, with my parents, buying that CD and listening to it with her. She was a big fan. I think my other thing I wanted to share was another thing that I had talked about last night with the family. A few weeks ago, I had called Rita, and as some of you may have experienced, sometimes when you talk to Rita, you got maybe 30 seconds to 60 seconds of interaction, and then sometimes that light turned on, and she would go. And we just started talking about classic television. And I remember the call. I remember thinking, wow, she's really going here. Talking about old westerns, old shows she loved, and every time you thought maybe, or maybe I didn't give her credit for how sharp she was, she would reach out for an actor or actress from the 60s, or reference somebody who starred in Mama's Family, or an episode of a show that she had remembered that she loved. And I think the last thing I wanted to share, she had this smile, this kind of smirk, where she knew. And I remember a conversation with Clara, who saw her in the hospital. And she said, "Do you know who I am?" And Rita gave her that kind of smirk that she does. And I knew exactly the smile that she gave you. Because one of my favorite things was, giving her a gentle ribbing or a joke or something that made her give me that laugh. And I knew, all right, I got to her. I got through. She was a really, really, really sweet person. And she'll be missed. And I'm happy to see you all here and know that she was loved and thought about and cared and considered. Thank you all. Yeah.
Well, I'm Ron Lipton. I'm Rita's cousin. We have a small family, but our families were very close. Her father and my father were brothers. They both came from Eastern Europe, he before the war, my father after the war. They lived in Danville, we lived in Chicago, and we would go there often. It seemed like every weekend, but I think it was probably once every month or 2 months or so. And she was about 4 years older, so we were, it was a big gap in those days, but we enjoyed each other, we got to know each other. And then when her family moved up to Chicago, she lived in the building across from the building that we lived in when we were first married. And that's when we really got to know each other and got to hang out, got to talk, and also listen to music and do all of those sorts of things. It was a real privilege, one that we didn't maybe appreciate as much as you would in retrospect, getting to know her, getting close to her, and so forth. And in the years since, we would interact, not perhaps less often, but we certainly saw Doug and Rita regularly, especially when they went to the casinos where we lived now in Indiana, because they enjoyed going to the casino. They enjoyed, and we would go out for dinner afterwards and see them. And what Jordan said was really true. She was just a sweet person, had a wonderful smile, and was somebody who was complex but hidden. And so it took a while to really get into what she was doing, and she was shy. She was not a very outgoing person unless you really got to know her. So we will miss her terribly. And
in keeping with the music motif, I've always been struck by a song called Bookends that was written by Simon and Garfunkel. It's actually the shortest song that they ever wrote. And to me, when I gather at a funeral, I think bookends are a really apt metaphor, because you put a bookend on one side of a set of books and on the other side of the set of books, and it contains the books on that shelf. But there can be things that can go on that shelf before, and there will certainly be things that go on that shelf after, but kind of the bookends keep keep those books in that section for, contained. And their song Bookends touched me in a profound way. It's the shortest song that they wrote, and they simply said, "Time it was, and what a time it was. A time of innocence, a time of confidences. Long ago it must be, I have a photograph. Preserve your memories. They're all that's left you." And I think that what touched me about that song is that, and those words are that as a rabbi for 30 years, I realized that that's what we need to do. We're in the business of preserving memories. We create memories, and then we preserve them, and we carry them on, and we pass them on. And generations know the memories of the generations that came before them, because it keeps them alive, lador vador, from generation to generation. And so we preserve memories, and by looking at photographs, by honoring stories, we preserve memories, and that's what we have to do as Jews to keep our story and to keep our journey alive. Rita came into this world to parents Francis and Saul, along with her amazing brother George, a brother who was full of life. Saul died young. Rita always took care of Francis. Saul was a doctor educated at the Sorbonne, grew up in Lithuania, and after the war came to America and settled in Danville, Illinois, where Saul was a doctor at the VA. George, I understand, also became a doctor. Rita grew up there, and since the family was small and many family members died in the Holocaust, they cherished the small family that they had. They moved up to Chicago for Rita to attend Mather High School. The family lived on Rockwell in a building owned by her father, and Ron, her cousin, lived on that same street in a building owned by his family. After that, she went to junior college. Ron, as a younger cousin, you were like a younger brother in many ways, just 4 years younger, and shared so many wonderful early years together. Rita certainly had a hard life. She was brilliant, she was kind, she read a lot, she worked. She took care of Francis. You recalled, Ron, that she had a great sense of humor, a great laugh. She was the way that she was. She appreciated honesty. She told it like it was. She was introverted. And as Andy said to me, that she appreciated that honesty. And the last time that Andy said she saw her, she looked beautiful. She looked beautiful. And as a family, you shared so many wonderful memories. And an amazing friend. Is it Norma? Thank you. Thank you for being here. Friends of 60 years. Friends from the time you were 12 or so.
Yeah.
And your sister was friends. You were the younger sister.
Yeah, she was originally friends with my sister.
Yeah,
So,
that's amazing.
And me and Rita stuck together through the time, traveled together and stuck together.
And you kept close all these years, and for that we're thank you. And we're certainly we thank you for fixing her up with Doug. He was your neighbor. He was
Yeah, right
he was your neighbor, and you fixed the two of them up. They were wonderful companions and friends. They shared so many good years, 30 years or so together.
Got along great.
They got along great, and they just had a really special relationship. They enjoyed life, and they enjoyed family. They had a wonderful time. Doug worked hard, and they lived on Grosse Pointe Road, and they had a beautiful life together. Doug's family, who's here, thank you so much for being here. Miami Beach was a big part of her life as well, with family down there, and her parents moved down there, and visiting and being part of that Miami Beach life as well. Unfortunately, George died in the spring of 2023, and Doug just a few months later. That's what we would call a double whammy for Rita. She moved to the Mather place in Wilmette. She lost mobility. Patricia, thank you for taking such good care of her. Thank you for giving her dignity and strength and love, knowing that she wasn't alone. Such a gift. She liked to watch TV, always at the highest volume possible, I'm told. She kept the blinds closed. The only joy was an occasional bingo game at the Mather, which she loved. But with the help of family, all of you who are gathered here, and friends, you did all that you could. She had dignity and love till the very end of her life. And in the end, that's really all that matters. Time it was, and what a time it was. A time of innocence, a time of confidences. Long ago it must be, I have a photograph. Preserve your memories. They're all that's left you. My hope is that each one of you preserves a memory about Rita. To keep that memory close to your heart. To keep that memory front and center. And to keep her alive in your heart and in your memory. Truth be told, everybody dies 2 times. You die twice. The first time is when you stop breathing, and there's a service and a casket and a burial. But the second time that you die is when the last person who knew you or knew of you stops talking about you. And then your memory dies. For 77 years she lived on this earth, and we come to the end of that first death right now. But it's up to you to keep the memories alive for a long time, longer than 77 years, to keep the stories going and to honor her memory as best you can. In a beautiful poem called Epitaph, which are just the words that are written on a headstone, that famous poet Anonymous said, "I do not want a curious crowd to come with lamentations loud when I am dead, nor do I want my words and ways rehearsed by them with tardy praise when life is fled. I only want the faithful few who stood through good and evil too, true friendship's test. Just those who sought to find the good, and then as only true friends could, forgave the rest. I'd have them come, these very few, and drop perhaps a tear or two, and then without a sob or moan, go softly out and leave alone my soul to rest. All of you who are here right now are truly the faithful few who stood through good and evil too, true friendship's test. Clara, thank you for all that you did. Jordan, thank you for all that you did. Ron, thank you for all that you did. Together as a family, you really stepped up. To the rest of the Duffields and to the Liptons, thank you for being there, and to Doug's family, and to everyone who were touched by her. If anyone else wants to say a word or two, I give you the opportunity. No one has to. A word to describe her, a memory that you might have.
She was my great aunt. When I was like an older teenager, I would teach swimming lessons. So I used to take her 2 sisters, like they had a pool in her building. And I asked her like, oh, would it be okay if I use the pool in your building? Like I know you use it like in the morning or whatever. She would like swim every morning at 5 a.m. And she was like, yeah, of course. And like she would come and open the door for me like every Sunday morning, and like always be excited to see me. And her and my Uncle Douglas also both like would buy us snacks, so that like after we went swimming, we'd come back up to their apartment, we'd sit down, we'd talk to them, and I just remember her. I don't have so many interactions with her. It was only whenever like my uncle was over and she would come. She would come for holidays sometimes. But she was always like very nice to me, nice to my family, very friendly, very happy. And yeah, it was her.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else?
I could say a few words. Rita married my uncle. He's my dad's brother. My dad also just died a few months ago. But when we got married, I was in college, so it was like, when you have aunts and uncles that marry into a family, it's like the kind of thing that was already there when you were born. But for me, Rita joined when I was grown already. I was in my 20s. So I think that was kind of a neat thing, and you could see when they got married, her mom was still living, and I got to see that and see her taking care of her mom, and how, Doug just, it was like, because he was by him, just him, and he just gained a family like just all this. It was nice to see that, and nice to see them together all those years. And when she's telling, my daughter saying about after they go swimming, that was one of the things, like, I came over to my grandparents when I was little. Doug, he'd have to go out and buy something. You gotta eat this, buy his candy, buy his chip, like whatever. Like, it was funny to see that happen with my kids too. That they, it was always happy to, and you want that for family. Happy to see you, showing that love, and she always did that.
Thank you. Preserve your memories. Thanks. We do not choose to be born. We do not choose our parents or the time or countries of our birth or the circumstances of our upbringing. Most of us choose to die or the time or conditions of our death. But within all this realm of choicelessness, we do choose how to live. Courageously or in cowardice, honorably or dishonorably, with purpose or adrift. We decide what is important and what is trivial. What makes us significant is what we do or refuse to do. We decide and we choose, and so we give definition to our lives. At every funeral I've ever officiated at, I've said the words attributed to Ecclesiastes. The dust returns to the earth, the spirit returns to God who gave it. It's only the house of the spirit which we place within the earth. The spirit or soul can never die. We have a body and a soul. Those two things live together. Death is simply when the body and the soul separate. Ever wonder why we say God bless you when someone sneezes? We sneeze and we say God bless you. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you say God bless you when someone sneezes? Because the soul almost left your body, but it didn't. So we say God bless you. Every morning, Jews pray, Elohai neshama shanatata bi tehurahi. The soul that you have given me, O God, is pure. You created and formed it. You breathed that soul into me, and within me you sustain it. So long as I have breath, therefore, I will give thanks to you, God. We breathe 22,000 breaths a day. But there comes a time for all of us when we take our last breath. And that's death. And at the moment of death, the body and the soul separate. The only thing that we bring to Memorial Park Cemetery, the only thing we place in a plain pine box, the only thing that we bury is a body, not a soul. Souls live on. Souls are eternal. So we honor that soul. We return the body to the earth, but we lift up that soul. So we ask for God to watch over that soul. Together we rise. El Malay Rachamim Shochein B'Marmim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Ashchina Im Kedoshim Teharim Kezohar Harakia Mazirim Et Nishmat Rita Bat Francis Basal Shahalacha Lolamo. God, full of compassion, dwelling in the heights and the depths, grant perfect rest under the wings of your presence to Rita, who has entered eternity. May she be bound up in the soul of God's eternal embrace. May her repose be peaceful. May she rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. The cemetery workers will lower the casket to its final resting place. You may be seated while this happens, and once the casket is placed at this family plot, it takes just a few moments for the vault lid to be placed upon the casket, sealing it here at this burial site. And then together we will say the mourner's Kaddish, a prayer that does not talk about death, but rather reaffirms our commitment to life. We say Kaddish in her honor and in her memory. We say Kaddish together. We will continue to say Kaddish for the next 30 days at Shalom congregation, where Clara, where your family belongs, and so we will say Kaddish there, and then we will also say Kaddish at Yizkor, at the Yizkor service. There'll be one for Pesach, there'll be one for Shavuot, and then on Yom Kippur, along with all who have died in the past year, we will say her name again. We will honor her name. If I had to live my life over, I'd try to make more mistakes next time. I would relax, I would limber up, I would be sillier than I have been on this trip. I know very few things that I would take seriously. I would be a little crazier, I would be less hygienic, I would take more chances, I would take more trips, I would climb more mountains, swim more rivers, and watch more sunsets. I would burn more energy, I would eat more ice cream, and I would eat less beans. I would have more actual troubles and fewer imaginary ones. You see, I'm one of those people who lives prophylactically and sensibly and sanely, hour after hour, day after day. Oh, I've had my moments, and if I had to do it over again, I'd have more of them. In fact, I'd try to have nothing else. Just moments one after the other instead of living so many years ahead of each day. I'd have been one of those people who never goes anywhere without a thermometer, a hot water bottle, a raincoat, or a parachute. If I had to do it over again, I would go places and do things and travel lighter than I have. If I had to live my life over, I would start barefooted earlier in the spring and stay that way later in the fall. I'd listen to more Eric Clapton. I would play more hooky. I wouldn't make such good grades except by accident. I would ride on more merry-go-rounds. I'd pick more daisies. We never know how much time we have left. Death is a reminder of looking at our lives and figuring out what we need to do. 77 is far too soon. A biblical psalmist said that the span of a life is 70 years, or by reason of strength, 80 years. But 1,000 years in God's sight is but as yesterday when as a past or as a watch in the night. The psalmist then says, teach us to number our days that we may attain a heart of wisdom. We count our days, but we make our days count. And we honor our lives as best we can. 77 is a full life according to the psalmist, but we always want more. Always want more. And so we do our best to live our lives fully and completely. The first earth that is added is earth from the land of Israel. We'll add this directly onto the casket. We live in a world where many people choose to be buried in Jerusalem in the Mount of Olives. It says the Messiah has not come yet, but when the Messiah does come, the world will be reunited. There won't be things like illness. There won't be things like pain. There won't be wars. There won't be October 7th. There won't be these horrible things that we experience right now. But we know that hasn't happened yet, but it will. And when it does, the world will come back together. Everywhere will be eaten again. And so we add earth from the Mount of Olives. Since everyone can't be buried on the Mount of Olives, we add earth from that holy site to every burial outside the land of Israel, hoping and praying for a world truly at peace. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehisham, Adonai Mevorach. God gave, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. All of us must answer the summons to return to the reservoir of life when our time on earth has ended, just as the leaf falls from the tree when its day is done. But just as that leaf enriches the soil, our loved ones enrich us by the way they live, by the way they love, by the way they laugh. And we do best homage to our dead when we live our lives most fully, even in the shadow of our loss. Just as a human enters the world, so they depart. She enters the world with a cry and departs with a cry. She enters the world weeping and leaves with weeping. She enters the world with love and leaves with love. She enters the world with a sigh and leaves with a sigh. She enters the world devoid of knowledge and leaves devoid of knowledge. As it has been said in the name of Rabbi Meir, when a person enters the world, his or her hands are clenched, as though as to say, the whole world is mine, I shall inherit it. But when he or she leaves, their hands are spread open, as if to say, I've taken nothing from the world away. We rise together for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, ve'almad dibrach heruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayed kol Beit Yisrael v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mavarach leolam olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei v'kudsha brichu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata Gamiran Belma Vimru Amin. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Vimru Amin. Oseh Shalom B'mromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Vimru Amin. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved, and let us say, Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'yimru Amen. Friends, the ground is very slippery and it's very, very muddy. We're going to ask for you to come forward if you'd like to begin the burial process. The earth is also very, very heavy because it's so wet. So we're going to ask that you take 3 shovelfuls of earth and place it into the grave, beginning the burial process, knowing that there are 613 commandments that we are commanded to fulfill, and the one commandment that we can't do for ourselves is we can't bury ourselves, and so we take that responsibility on for other people, and so we will come forward to begin the burial process. We live in a world where so often when we do something, we might say, well, what will I get in return? But there's no way that she can ever pay you back for this, but you can still give back to her one final time. So please come to either side of the grave. Again, just be very careful around the grave as the boards are slippery and the ground is slippery as we begin the burial process.
Yes, Debbie, what?
Yeah, you go on either side of the mound. Just please, friends, be very careful. If you want to come around